Hey, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's album review is on Yazoo's second album, You and Me Both. This came out in 1983. This was the last album uh, with Alison Moyet and Vince Clarke together. Obviously, Vince Clarke left Depeche Mode and um, started Yazoo or Yaz with Allison in 1981, and then had great success with that first album. And this was the second album, and unfortunately the last album. And then Vince Clarke would go on to be in the Assembly, and then of course in Erasure. And Allison Moyet would start her solo career the next year, which I actually got a chance to. I did reissue. I did reissue. I did a review. Love Resurrection, or Alf as the album is. I always think it was Love Resurrection because that's the first song, but the album's called Alf. So I did review that on my channel. So if you're interested in that, just check in the playlist there. I think that one's under New Wave, um, under New Wave video reviews in my playlist. Yeah, this is the second album. Um, this is actually my sister's original copy of this record. I was don't don't go by Yaz was a huge hit on MTV and just alternative. I wouldn't say radio per se, but just a huge hit at the time, underground hit, especially with the kind of creepy video. It was just so unique and such a. I think it's one of the most underrated '80s dance songs of all time. When you think of like Blue Monday is a great song for dance music. Um, but Don't Go is has to be one of the best of that decade. It's one of the probably best Moog synthesizer bass lines um, that I've ever heard. It's just so fat and so perfect and so cool. And it's also cool looking at videos from those days, and then each alternate version. Like I do have the Don't Go 12 inch, and that one has a different sound of the bass line too. But it seems like almost every live version sort of has a different sounding bass line or different sounding construction of the track versus the album track, and I think that's kind of cool for that time, and that just kind of shows you the uniqueness of and the warmth of that keyboard. That keyboard sound was just it's really hard to replicate that sound even with the same instrument another time. It's in the in different recording environments, just a sick bass line. But that original version is just fantastic. Um, this album tried to replicate that, not necessarily that bass line, but definitely a combination of the sort of ballad of Alison Moyet and take advantage of her amazing voice, but then also do some dance tracks as well, like State Farm and Sweet Thing and Good Times on this album. Unfortunately, for the most part, they didn't. They definitely didn't reach the success of um, Don't Go. From these three tracks, the more dance tracks. But it's really hard to hit that level again. Um, but I think that's probably could have been one of the things that sort of wouldn't say ended their career. But I think I think the rawness of the first album sort of was like, wow, this is a really interesting match. And you can see on the second album, on this album, you can see them kind of going their separate ways. You can see like Alice Moyet is doing her, like Odo Boy and Mr. Even well, I wouldn't say Mr. Blue because Mr. Blue is still like a good balance of the two together, and so is Nobody's Diary. But you can see the cracks in the song directions. maybe her voice not fitting the direction of where he wanted to write. Um, although he wrote some ballads and stuff with Erasure, it wasn't really the high energy disco dance music. Like her voice worked on the darker stuff, but even like Situation worked. Maybe State Farm was a good example, but you can see like on Good Times and Sweet Thing, I don't think they really hit the energy that was possible, if they sort of did that music with Erasure, and that sort of turned out to be true. And then sort of Alcimelier, went more her dance pop direction, and you can kind of see the split kind of happening through this album from song to song. And as much as you love the first album and you like a lot of songs on this album, um, you can kind of see the eventual the need was to go their separate ways so they could kind of move on and do great things individually elsewhere. But you can kind of see the cracks in this album forming. Um, but again, it's just, Vince Clarke is just, I mean, if they need to have an electronic Hall of Fame, like I don't know if Vince Clarke will ever get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They need to make an electronic Rock and Roll Hall of an electronic Hall of Fame, so they can get people like Kraftwerk in there and Ultravox and Japan and Gary Newman and Depeche Mode and New Order and Vince Clarke. Yazoo should be in there as well. There's so many great electronic bands that should be in there. Tangerine Dream. How's Tangerine Dream not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? It's just a mind blower there. It's just electronic music and keyboard music is unfortunately still not given the respect that it deserves. I mean, when you think of when you look at I'm not saying that I like electronic more so than hip hop, but I'm not saying this because I do like electronic music more than hip hop, but electronic music is technically older than hip hop. Hip hop started in the late 70s, got popular through the 80s, but really kind of made a success in the 90s for the most part, right? Electronic music started in the late 60s, was being used in the 70s, got more popular in the 80s, and really took off in the 80s and the 90s. So they have similar paths, but electronic music is a little bit before hip hop, and it's really disrespectful when you look at the amount of electronic people not in the Hall of Fame, and you see all the hip hop people getting in. I mean, Dr. Dre's in there, Eminem's in there, I think Run DMC is in there. Tribe Called Quest was just put in there. I mean, there's some luminaries of hip hop. There's probably like 10 or 15 in there that are now in there, and there's nobody but Depeche Mode in there. There's no. There's Francis Kevorkian, Brian Eno. I mean, some of these people should be in there. It's really sad that electronic music gets disrespected and so much in the media. So much so that it's crazy that there's not really one of the great thing about the 80s and then all the way into the early 90s was you had songs like CC Peniston Finally or Show Me Love by Robin S. or All Night Long by Kathy Dennis or Expose or early Madonna that got into the popular charts, and they were just dance music with songs on it. That's still happening today, but they don't even get put in the dance songs, yet hip hop does. It's just like dance music is so disrespected. In popular music, it's really unfortunate. It's really sad that they can't pick it. It's really sad that the stars in electronic music are the popular people. They're not DJs, although they try to DJ. Generally, they're and I get it. It's probably why they're not more electronic music, because they're looking at these people like Skrillex and David Guetta and just these horrible pop EDM artists, just horrible. I can't even name some of them. I just don't know them, but I'm blanking on my name because I just, you know, trying to think of that one guy. Um, anyways, just any of the popular Skrillex and um, David Guetta and God, those type of artists where they're sort of DJs and they make songs and they're really lame and just really shitty music, shitty fucking really shitty electronic music, and you can see why there's not other people in the industry like, oh, what about a dance song that just has like a house song with some good lyrics on it? You know, that used to make the charts. Now it doesn't make the charts. You know, because they don't support it because people pushing this certain popular electronic music that's garbage. This EDM music and this trap music. Oh, it's some of the worst music, some of the worst kinds of dubstep. I mean, just some god awful music. You know what I mean? Like electronic music on the popular side is really horrible. And as techno music has gotten popular the last 10 or 15 years, man, some of the renditions of techno really bad too. It's so watered down now. Techno used to be aggressive and not even really dance music. It was music for your mind and music for your soul and it was, you know, I go on and on about techno, but it's just the sounds of the styles of techno right now. I haven't bought a. I'm trying to think of the last time I bought a new techno record. It hasn't been very many in the last 5-7 years because the unless there's older techno artists, just the newer techno that's coming out is just very it's a lot of it is well produced, just not very good. Anyways, so we'll get into but yeah, just electronic music is so disrespected, and you know, Vince Clarke should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's a crime that he's not. Um, so is Brian Eno. I mean, geez, how can you not have Brian Eno in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? You know, it's just crazy. Like, there's a level of producers and engineers and mixers and stuff that don't get the respect that they deserve for helping create some of the most amazing albums of all time. Like Brian Eno should be up there for his work with U2 and David Bowie and Roxy Music and just some amazing artists he's worked with and albums that he's helped create. I mean, Talking Heads, jeez. Um, but yeah, the first track, Nobody's Diary. Starts out right away with, in my opinion, the best track of the album. 4 stars. One of her best slow tracks of all time. Alison Moyet, Nobody's Diary, just great track. The main melody, really nice. The analog keyboards, it's great, great track. 4 stars. Softly Over is a really nice track as well. Number 2, haunting Allison vocals. Smooth chorus, wonderful little melodies in it. This is when you see the songs that do work in here that are kind of whimsical and little melodies and Allison's kind of singing over, you know, kind of like Mr. Blue or Softly Over or And On, right? Even Ode to a Boy a little bit. Like there's these little whimsical melodies that Vince Clarke is so great writing and Alison Moyet kind of sings over is really nice. You know, that are really her ballads or her more solo popular stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like she really kind of, the combination really still works within that. There's you know, some of the outliers, you know, don't work for me. But that's when you can kind of see that the like Mr. Blue and Softly Over, the combination of the two together is still really strong in a lot of these songs. 3 1/4 stars for Softly Over. Sweet Thing isn't bad. It's kind of it's better than Good Times, that's for sure. It's still kind of like a high energy disco sound, you know, which was very very popular in 1983. So you can see that Vince Clarke is kind of inspired by disco music, you know, and high energy disco especially, and you can see how that probably led to him choosing Andy Bell for Erasure, right? So he kind of has that type of voice that would work, high pitched and surprisingly soulful voice that Andy Bell does, and unique voice, and is great for dance and disco music. So you can see why he chose Erasure, and Alison Moyet's voice didn't work so well with that. Sweet Thing was better though, and of course Don't Go was a classic. But that's I don't really consider Don't Go as much of a disco song as certainly Sweet Thing or State Farm. But it's kind of post disco, you could say. But yeah, I mean, you can see why Andy Bell was the next iteration of Vince Clarke's uh, you know goal in sort of making music for that type of voice. Sweet Thing, 2.5 stars. It's still a good song though. I got it right in between good and very good. Mr. Blue, I've always liked the song. It's simple and beautiful. Chorus is nice. It's always been just a really elegant little song. 3.25 stars. Good Times is my least favorite song on the album, tied with the next song, Walk Away from Love. Both 1.5 stars. Walk Away from Love is trying a little too hard, in my opinion. It is the weakest song on the album for me. It feels like they're trying to make a hit on this album, on this song, and that's unfortunate because this is the only one out of the whole catalog that sort of feels like they're trying a little too hard. Um, Old Du Bois, track 7, kind of helps the album kind of get back on track, in my opinion. 3 stars. Unmarked is a really strong song. It's one of my favorites on the album. 3.5 stars. This one is also a little bit on the darker side, a little bit more serious, but really clever and very catchy. 3.5 stars. Surprisingly kind of catchy. Sneaks up on you. Track Anyone is 2 stars. Good track. State Farm, good track too. 2.75 stars. It's one of the better dance ones on the album. They added it on. It's not on this version. Oh, I'm sorry. It is on this version. This is the U.S. version. That's right. It wasn't on the UK version. State Farm replaced one of the songs on the UK version, um, which I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. It's just an extra dance song on there. They had some success with Situation and Don't Go, so you can see why they wanted to add another dance song. And State Farm is one of the better ones on here, and it did have some success as a single and a dance single. They came out with separately, and it's been sampled. I can't remember who sampled. Situation's been sampled so much over a long time, but there was some sampling of State Farm as well. And then the album closes on a really nice track, "And On," which is surprising. Which is a surprising song of the album for me. Not that I haven't heard it before, but it's one that I always don't think about, that I kind of forgotten about, that is so good. I got 3.25 stars. So when I add up the stars, it's 30.5 stars divided by 11 for a 2.77. So really strong album, really strong rating. It's on the higher side of a very good of a good album. I have it a 66 out of 100. It's a song or two away from being very good. It's right on the edge. There's nothing. It doesn't reach the successes uh, of Upstairs at Eric. I would probably think Upstairs at Eric is probably a very good album. But I do think it's better than Alison Moyet's first solo album. Vince Clarke certainly helps with that. The uniqueness of the sounds in this, the vintage analog electronic sound in here is, I do like a little bit more than the more polished sound, more poppy dance song of Alf. Alf certainly has 3 or 4 or 5 really good songs when I compare the two, but I think you and me both has a little bit more very good songs. I got 6 that are very good or above. I think on Alf probably 4 maybe five. I think of, you know, obviously Love Resurrection and um, Invisible, you know, Only You. You know, there's certainly some good ones on that album, but I feel like there's more good ones, more more very good tracks on here, and more good tracks. I have 9 of the 11 is good on here, versus I think that album only has 9, and I wanted to say that percentage is better on here for even good and very good and above. So I feel confident in saying this one's a little bit better than Love Resurrection. I think I rated Resurrection a 59 or a 61, somewhere around there. And so you and me both, I like a little bit better, 66 out of 100. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Yazoo's second album. I'll definitely do Upstairs and Eric in the near future. And yeah, I'm curious what are your favorite 3 tracks on here. For me, it's Nobody's Diary and it's tough. I got three songs, 3 in chorus. Oh yeah, Nobody's Diary, Mr. Blue, and Unmarked. Those are my favorite 3. All right, thanks so much for watching.